take just one moment for prayer and or meditation, please. Thank you so much. I wanted to say that as we meditate and pray, to remember the families of our Executive Secretary, Thandi Magobelela, who lost her mom recently, and also I believe that the CEO of Sassa also has a bereavement. So if we can please remember them in our prayers and in our thoughts. But again, apologies for the late start. As I say, we will be updated on the status of the attendance of the South African Reserve Bank as is stipulated in our agenda for this morning. I also want to, just before we start, to apologize profusely to the members of Parliament, the members of this portfolio committee first, for bringing them to Cape Town during constituency period when they should be doing their constituency work. And secondly, for the postponements that have happened. They were definitely not out of disrespect on my part, and anyone that was involved in having these postponements happen. It just had to, those were the postponements that could not be avoided, but I assure you it was not due to disrespect. I know that some portfolio committee members made their opinions known about the dislike or the discomfort with the postponement. So I thought I would make that apology in person, because otherwise I had called the portfolio committee members. And Minister, I also want to profusely apologize to you and the department and Sassa for the postponements. Again, no disrespect. I will do anything, but I will not disrespect anyone. So please accept my apology. The meeting that we had to call as the committee while we were in our constituency period was because of the information that we had through presentations to this committee by the department, by the Honorable Minister, and that the September was looming and we were going away on constituency period, so we didn't want to come back and not knowing what the impact of the termination of the MSA would have on the many millions of South Africans whose livelihoods depend entirely, some of them or most of them, on the social grants that they receive. So that was the reason for this meeting. The reason also that we invited the South African Reserve Bank was that because there was a pending issue of the issuing of cards, and it was, as we would be made to believe, on the basis of the variation notices or variation orders by the South African Reserve Bank. So we wanted to know the impact or the status even of that indefinite suspension of the issuing of cards. So that is the purpose of this meeting today. So to the Honorable Minister and the Honorable Deputy Minister and the DG, you are welcome, and we thank you so much to you and your teams and the acting Chief Executive Officer of Sassa in the absence of the CEO himself. You are welcome, and we thank you so much for honoring the invitation and for having prepared to come and present and then stop, and then prepared to come and then stop. But we assure you that we will do everything in our powers in this office for that not to happen. And I know that I have to also thank and apologize to our support team in Parliament. Some of them were supposed to be on leave. They've had to chop and change their leave a few times to make sure that they are present for this meeting. So that again is my other apology right there. So, Honourable Minister, I just want to make sure that we don't waste any further time. So I would like for us to go through the agenda and so that we can start with in earnest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, members, the ministers, and the departmental officials in attendance, any stakeholders, Chair. Today is the 27th of August, 2025. This meeting has been constituted in terms of the National Assembly rules. Chair, you have already welcomed us and do the opening remarks. Chair, in terms of the members that are in attendance, we have Member Munyai, we have Member Abrahams, we have Member Nhlong, we have Member Marais, and Chair, we have also our Bishop with us. That's the 5 members that are present, Chair. We have apologies from Member Reverend Gabaza, who is unable to attend due to prior commitments. Also, Chair Member Ramaila, he's got a minor procedure. And also, Chair Member, what's this member? I'm just sorry, Chair. And then we have also no, Member Peters. She won't be able to join us due to prior arrangements, and Member Mahatlo, she's also unable to attend. She's not well. So I have those apologies thus far, Chair. We'll proceed to adopt the apologies and agenda and receive an overview from the Minister, and then we'll get a briefing from the SARS, South African Reserve Bank, and also we'll have deliberations and we'll receive a briefing from DSD Sassa on the impact of the expiry of Sassa and post-bank MSA at the end of September 2025 and measures in place to ensure smooth transition. We will adjourn for lunch at 12:45 to 13:30, and then from 13:30 to 1500, Chair, we'll come back and engage on the presentation from Sassa, and we'll also receive responses from Sassa. Chair, also from 1500 to 1510, you will come and make the closing remarks, and the meeting, Chair, will adjourn. So that is the agenda for today's meeting for consideration and adoption. Over to you, Chair. I just want to apologize for the mishaps. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lindiwe. The apology is accepted. Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Honourable Marais.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I just want to bring to attention to Lindiwe that Tafeni is in the house. She didn't mention that we are 5 here. We are 6. Thank you.
We can see you, Honourable Tafeni. At least I can. May I please have the adoption of the agenda? Honourable Mnyai is adopting the agenda, and any seconder? Honourable Abrams is seconding this agenda. And so with an adopted agenda, we will be on our way to proceeding with our meeting. Yes. It seems like we have a report back on the Reserve Bank.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I think that's what disturbed me, and I just, my brain just locked. They have made a communication to check from the Reserve Bank attendance. The Parliamentary Liaison Officer indicated that they received my correspondence on the 21st of August. And unfortunately, he forwarded the presentation, the invitation letter to a wrong person. They were under the impression that the meeting is going to be virtual, but unfortunately, there's that error that happened to send it to a wrong person. Up until this morning, they realized that they were supposed to be in person, but unfortunately, they are in Pretoria, and they also pleaded with Chairperson if we cannot make arrangements for them to present virtually. So I think that's what really disturbed my mind and not being focused in discharging my responsibility. So that's the arrangement, Chair. They want the committee to consider, and if possible, I just need to double check if that is possible to connect them before you can make a decision. Thanks very much, Chair.
Honourable members, there is a report back from Reserve Bank. They are sitting in Pretoria and we are in Cape Town. Honourable Murray?
You know what, Chairperson, this is very disrespectful. Twice they have cancelled the meetings. Twice I had to cancel my bookings to come to Cape Town. This is a very important meeting. And they know the importance of this meeting, and telling that they got the thing by the wrong person is not fair, because they knew the meeting was cancelled. And they are taking us for granted here, because we took our time to come here. All the other staff took their time to come here. And this is a thing that we need to discuss today in person, not via, then we could have called a virtual meeting. But it needs to be in person so that we can see each other and know what is the right thing to do. Right. Now they come and say they didn't get a correspondence. No, it's not fair, because last week the same thing happened, it was cancelled. It can't go on like this, seriously.
Thank you, Honourable Murray. Any other, I just need to be able to go back to the agenda and change it accordingly. Yes, Honourable Mnyai.
I think they must be called upon, firstly, I'm convinced about your profusely apology that you have tendered in advance as the secretary, because you took responsibility. And I think we must accept that confusion arises in the areas of work environment. And when such a mistake has been made, and I think we have to reconvene them, I'm not saying that they to be given an opportunity to come and present in person, so that at least there's coherence of the meeting, but the meeting can proceed as planned. Thank you.
Thanks, Honourable Mnyai. Honourable Abrams.
Good morning, Chairperson, and thank you for the opportunity. Firstly, thank you for your apology regarding the cancellations and postponements of the meeting on 2 occasions. I just would like to make this comment, Chairperson. The whole point of getting all the role players into the same room, and I also noted that Postbank isn't here, and I'm not sure if Postbank was invited, because it is a contract between Sassa and Postbank. And the reason why we needed all the role players in the room was that we can hear collectively from everybody in one room, because we've had these meetings before individually with Postbank, individually with Sassa, individually, and not yet with the South African Reserve Bank. And we needed that collective reassurance from all parties in the same room, looking each other in the face as to what has happened. So we cannot postpone again, Chairperson, that is my opinion. We are all here. And going forward, Chairperson, I would also like to request that members receive formal correspondence from whether it's the Minister, Sassa, Parliament, as to the reasons we are getting postponement, so that we have it on our record. I don't think that a WhatsApp message to say that it's just been cancelled is sufficient. I think we need to also be taken into confidence as to the actual reasons why meetings are cancelled. So with that, Chairperson, I just would like to ask if we can't please proceed if we're all here, and if the South African Reserve Bank are able to join, they can join in virtually. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Abrams. That is noted. Honorable Munyai, again.
No, I have no objection to the proposal made by honorable member that they need to be called and plus Postbank. That's not an issue for me. I have no objection, but I think we may proceed as you recommended.
Oh, I did not explain to the Honorable Abrams that we did not invite Postbank. The reason being that we wanted to know from Sassa, over whom we exercise oversight, what the impact will be on the people that receive grants when they terminate. This is a meeting about the termination of a master agreement. So if the agreement is being terminated, you want to know from the person that you exercise oversight on, what are the people going to experience, the people that you were created to pay grants to. So that was the reason why we just invited Sassa, the department, and Sassa, and not Postbank as such. And yeah, I agree, honorable members. I feel like we want to meet with Reserve Bank in person here in Parliament. So those arrangements will be made as per I believe the majority of the portfolio committee is saying, if there are no other additions to what we have heard. And so we will make those arrangements. And so this has an impact on the agenda, which means that the 9:50 to 10:30 slot is falling away for a meeting to be reconvened at a later time. And so we will, and then it takes away the committee deliberations and responses from that presentation as well, which then leaves us with one item of the agenda, which is the briefing by DSD Sassa on the impact of the expiry of Sassa and Postbank Master Service Agreement at the end of September 2025, and measures that are in place to ensure smooth transition. So I would like the acceptance, the adoption of that agenda, please, with those changes. Thank you, Honorable Abrams. You are adopting the agenda, and you are seconded by Honorable Tlong. Thank you so much. Honorable Minister and Honorable Deputy Minister, at last we can start the meeting. And the only joy one can, because you must find joy in anything and everything, is that we will have a shorter meeting. I mean, I know what that means. But over to you, Minister.
Honorable Chairperson, honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, Deputy Minister of Social Development, Mr. Harif Hendricks, Director General of Department of Social Development, Sassa Acting CEO, Mr. Brenton van Vriede, NDA Acting CEO, Mr. Rapatla Ramkhupa, Sassa CFO, DDGs present here, senior officials. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is indeed a joy and a gratitude to ourselves, Honorable Chairperson, that you gave us an opportunity to come and present before this committee. We appreciate your wisdom, Honorable Chair, and your collective, that you deemed it fit for us to come and present. We know for a fact that you play your oversight role, which is a constitutional responsibility that we always respect and appreciate. We also take upon ourselves, Honorable Chairperson, to welcome your acceptance of us having to request from your initial date the postponement that you gave to us. Remember, this was to take place sometime in July, but as the department, we had all other commitments that we have committed already. Hence, we requested for a postponement at that time. We really appreciate that, Honorable Chairperson. Chair, we are here in that appreciation as a committee, we came to come and put before the committee and the people of the Republic the situation that we're in at the present moment in an agreement we had between ourselves and Post Bank, which initially was Post Office. This, Chair, was brought to the fore due to the outcome of a court between Sassa and CPS. And at the time, as you might all remember, Sassa did not have an infrastructure nor a knowledge of how to distribute grants at the time. However, because of Sassa Act, the court emphasized that to say Sassa must take it upon itself to make sure that grants are distributed. And this is how we got to be in partnership with Post Bank at the time, which today, with Post Office, which now we have a Post Bank relationship. Chair, we are aware of the fact that this matter will also receive public interest. Hence, this briefing to this committee is of paramount importance. And I must also give historical context, as I have done, on where are we coming from with this matter. As I have already indicated that we were instructed by Constitutional Court to in-source the payment system, and subsequently the National Treasury at the time granted Sassa a deviation approval to enter into an agreement which then gave birth to Master Service Agreement contract between Post Bank and Sassa. Chairperson, as public representative, we are also entrusted with this responsibility to make sure that our people are served with dignity and respect, while ensuring that this is done within the confines of the legal prescripts. We then ought to find the balance that as we execute our executive responsibility and oversight, we also need to avoid creating confusion and panic to the public and our beneficiaries. Chair, if we politicize this transaction or use it to score points, we risk to create unnecessary panic among the very people we are mandated to serve. And this is why your invitation was accepted with both hands. The beneficiaries of social grants deserve stability and confidence, not confusion or fear. Let me also offer clarity and reassurance, Chair. This change will not disrupt the payment of social grants to beneficiaries who bank with Post Bank in particular. The termination of the MSA is a contractual matter to terminate an agreement that no longer serves the purpose of which it was intended. I must emphasize here that Post Bank remains a fully licensed and operational financial institution, and beneficiaries will continue to receive their grants in their Post Bank accounts, just as they have before. No change in this regard will occur. As the department, we are also reaffirming our trust in the regulatory framework that governs banking in South Africa. Post Bank, like all other banks operating in our country, is regulated by the South African Reserve Bank. SARS has consistently demonstrated interest and sensitivity to the needs of grant beneficiaries, even when taking regulatory actions against institutions with large numbers of vulnerable clients. We have every confidence that this will continue. Sassa, for its part, will remain vigilant should any regulatory changes arise that affect Post Bank or any other institution used by our beneficiaries. Sassa will cooperate fully with Reserve Bank to ensure that the interests of grant recipients are protected. In closing, Chair, Sassa, informed by Sassa Act as its responsibility to implement and monitor, will remain vigilant should any regulatory changes arise that affect Post Bank or any other institution used by beneficiaries. Additionally, we are open for discussion with any other service provider that is interested for us to perfect our service to our beneficiaries. I urge all of us to communicate clearly and responsibly. The facts are simple. Beneficiaries will continue to receive their grants. Postbank remains a functioning bank, and no new service provider is being appointed. No client needs to move to another bank unless they themselves choose to do so. Let us assure that our actions and words reflect this reality. Through you, Honorable Chairperson, I will then request the acting CEO of Sassa to take us through to give you facts on the matter. Thank you very much, Chair.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members, Minister, Deputy Minister, DG, Acting CEOs, colleagues. So I'm going to take us through the presentation that we've submitted to the Portfolio Committee for this item. Just in terms of the outline, we'll look at the purpose, background, reasons for the termination, the impact of the contract termination, and the conclusion. So just in terms of background, just a reminder that your Sassa pays approximately 19 million social grants every month. That's around about 12 million social grants and 7 million COVID SRD benefits, valued at around 22.4 billion rands monthly. That 19 million payments that we make goes into the bank accounts of beneficiaries across about 22 different banks, and I'll show you a list of the different banks that beneficiaries choose to get their grant payments in. And one of those banks is Postbank. So if we break it down to Postbank, there's about approximately 3 million payments made into bank accounts of Postbank every month. About 2 million of that is for social grants, and another 1 million for the COVID SRD. And then the table on the right-hand side just shows a breakdown of the different types of grants that are paid, particularly to Postbank. The largest amount being the child support grant of about 1.4 million, followed by the old age grant of just under 420,000, and the COVID SRD grant, which is about 1 million. So approximately 3 billion rands flows through the Postbank accounts on a monthly basis to approximately 3 million social grant beneficiaries. And I think the first key point that we want to make, apologies, I'll speak up a bit. So I think the first point we would like to make is that even though we're terminating the MSA, because we pay money directly into people's bank accounts, that does not change. So the Postbank bank account is a formal bank account regulated within the banking sector, and we'll continue to pay social grant beneficiaries their grants into the Postbank account. And that doesn't need the MSA for us to do that. So we don't necessarily have contracts with any other bank to make those payments into the various bank accounts that we pay social grants into. This slide just gives a breakdown of the distribution of grants as well as the COVID SRD payments. So you'll note that the bank that most beneficiaries choose to get their funds in is Capitec Bank, by far the largest bank that operates within this area. About 40% of social grant beneficiaries and COVID SRD beneficiaries choose to get their money paid into their Capitec Bank accounts, which is just over 7.5 million people. Postbank is the second largest bank with 3 million clients, as shown in the earlier slide. Again, the split is about 2 million grants, 1 million COVID SRD. And then African Bank is your third largest bank with 11% of clients banking with them. The larger portion being your social grant clients at 1.8 million beneficiaries, and the COVID SRD only about just over 350,000. Noting African Bank is a combination. So African Bank would be new to this slide because previously they were a smaller bank, but they've recently acquired Grindrod Bank. So people may be familiar with Grindrod. Members may be familiar with Grindrod Bank from historic. Grindrod Bank is now in African Bank. Together with this sort of two elements of Grindrod Bank, which is your ShopRite money market account and the old or the previously known EasyPay account. And then Time Bank is now previously not very active in the space, but since the COVID SRD grant came into place, Time Bank has been the bank that's been growing quite a lot in the space. And then the rest is your sort of big four, as they're known, and a small percentage then across the other 15 or so other banks. So in terms of the historical background, and Minister has touched a bit on this contract emanates from the CPS Constitutional Court case back in 2017 and 2018, where Sassa was instructed by the court to terminate the agreement with CPS due to various challenges with that contract. And at the time, SAPO then joined the court as a friend of the court, where they stated that they would be able to do or provide the services because they had quite a lot of, at the time they had a lot of post office branches which could then serve as alternative to cash pay points. And that was generally accepted at the court at the time. And Sassa then wrote to National Treasury and got permission then to deviate from formal procurement processes, SAPO being a sole the only institution that actually has post office branches. We could deviate from that being a single service provider, also a government institution. And therefore we got that deviation from National Treasury to enter into a contract with SAPO. In terms of regulations, our regulations provide for two methods of payment. It's Regulation 23.1, the first being into the bank account of social grant beneficiaries, and the second one being a payment method determined by the agency. Now, in 2018, after we concluded the contract with SAPO, DSD gazetted SAPO as the method of payment of the agency. However, in 2022, when new regulations were published, that gazette was repealed with that. So since that time, the only method of payment that we've been using is in terms of Regulation 23.1, which is directly into the bank accounts of social grant beneficiaries. In November 2023, a decision was then taken to close over-the-counter services provided by SAPO. And I think members are all familiar. At the time, we had a lot of discussions around that. SAPO branches, SAPO was having financial constraint. They were closing branches across the country, and that was causing huge confusion to social grant beneficiaries because, on the day of payment, we wouldn't know if a SAPO branch was operating or not. So a decision was then to withdraw that service, as well as the cash pay point services, which was also extremely costly. I think at the time that was also part of the challenges that SAPO was having, because the service was very costly to them. And even at that time, when the contract was then ceded from SAPO to Postbank, we saw that element of the contract also severely impacted Postbank because they couldn't afford the cost of running those services. So those two services were then terminated in April 2024. Now, if one looks at the MSA's original intent was to provide those over-the-counter services at SAPO, as well as the additional the cash pay points. So when we took over from CPS had 10,000 pay points. When we swapped to SAPO had just over 2,000 odd over-the-counter services, and that was then supplemented with about 1,700 pay points. And so the thing with the pay points are that if you miss the cash van that comes through the various village on a particular day, you don't get your grant. So you'll have to wait till the next month to get your grant. So to facilitate people being able to get their grant anytime, we also then prepaid all grants into bank accounts. So the bank accounts enable people to say, well, if I don't want to wait maybe till the 20th of the month or late in the month when a van comes through my area, I can then always just go and get my grant by withdrawing from an ATM or a merchant. So there was that third element. So it was the cash pay point, the over-the-counter service, and then the banking account element, which made it also then convenient for beneficiaries not to be solely reliant on the cash pay point and the over-the-counter service. However, when you withdrew that two services, only the banking element remained. But the banking element wasn't the primary objective of the MSA. So if you look at the way the MSA was structured, a lot of it was structured around monitoring and with strong penalties, etc., on the two primary services. The banking one is not necessarily very well reinforced within the MSA. So for us, the MSA, once that decision was taken to close those services, the MSA became, it was no longer serving its purpose or its intent. And so in December, we then wrote to Postbank requesting an early termination of the MSA, asking them to consider a 6-month request. They, however, declined that request and asked us to, give them the full 18 months as per the clauses within the MSA. So clause 5.1 of the MSA says if any party wishes to terminate, he must give 18 months notice. So we then subsequently withdrew that termination and issued the 18 months notice, which now comes to an end at the end of September. So that's just clause 5.1 that says this agreement will commence on the signature date and will subsist until it is terminated by either party by giving 18 months notice. And that's the notice we gave in 2024. We gave a little bit longer than 18 months, I think it was 20 months, to give them time to adequately prepare for the withdrawal for the termination of this contract. So in terms of impact, we see this as merely an administrative matter between Postbank and Sassa. Services won't change in the sense that Postbank will still service all its clients as a licensed financial institution. I think it would have been good if the Reserve Bank was here. They could give an indication, because they're the regulator of the banks. They could give an indication of their view as Postbank as a bank. And as long as the bank remains, still licensed, still able to operate, we believe the money that we deposit in those accounts will be safe. It is important also to note, as Minister says, we do have a very good relationship with the Reserve Bank, and they normally do, and there has been incidences in the past when they take various actions against various banks. They would also be very cognizant of social grant beneficiaries that get paid within those banks, and they would always approach us. And if for example, I think it was last year sometime when a particular bank was closed down, they would then approach us and we would work together with them to transfer and assist beneficiaries to be transferred to another bank. We are not saying that will happen to Postbank, but we're saying that, if anything were to happen with any of the banks, we do have that relationship with the Reserve Bank to work closely with them. But as of today, Postbank remains a fully operational bank. They will continue to service their contractual relationships that they would have with beneficiaries, and they would continue to provide banking services to beneficiaries. So nothing should change as of 1st October when the new payment cycle happens outside of the MSA. Beneficiaries should be able to access their money using the existing channels that they are familiar with. So that we don't foresee any changes, and we've not been informed of any changes from Postbank as well that they will be making in that environment. As Minister mentioned, there's no new service provider that will be appointed for banking services. Of those 22 banks that we pay social grants into, we don't have contracts with anyone. It's a simple function of beneficiary legs where they want to have their money paid, the same way we provide our salary we provide our institutions with our bank that we want our salaries paid into, and thus there's no need for a contract of this nature for banking services. So in terms of continuity, clients, as mentioned, will continue to bank with Postbank, and they'll continue to receive their funds in their Postbank account, which can be accessed at this stage with both the gold card and the black card. It would have been good if they've did their full card transition before the end of this, before the end of the MSA. However, the gold card still remains. If you look at the gold card, it's just got Sassa branding on. Sassa doesn't have any control over that card. It remains an instrument, a banking instrument regulated by SARB and the bank. We, for example, can't do anything on that card. We can't check people's account balances. If we want to assist a client, it requires us to then refer that client to Postbank. And also, if you would have, in preparation for this, you will notice that the new black cards that are being issued doesn't carry any Sassa branding as well. So that was also part of the preparation for making it more clear that people are banking with Postbank, and that there isn't going to be in the future any direct association between Postbank and Sassa. Postbank may amend the conditions of service as a bank. Many banks do this from time to time, and they will then communicate any of those changes to clients. At this stage, they've not communicated any changes to the terms and conditions, so we are expecting them to keep things the same as they're currently being provided, and we doubt that they would, because they wouldn't be very competitive. There's a lot of banks that operate in the space that provide free bank accounts, free point of sale withdrawals, which is all the things Postbank currently provides. If they were to suddenly start charging for that, they wouldn't be competitive, and clients would simply switch to another bank that does this for free. And then in terms of switching, Sassa has the capability of assisting clients to switch from one bank to another bank. So at any time a client becomes unhappy with the bank that they're using, they are free to come to any local office and switch to another bank. However, we would urge clients not to panic, not to rush in and change bank accounts to other banks. To rather assess your situation. If you're unhappy, then come in and change. But if you're happy, stick with the bank that you're currently doing. Because obviously, if clients come in bulk, then it does also put pressure on us. But as Minister mentioned, we don't foresee any change to the current service level provisions, service level conditions. So we don't necessarily expect clients to be coming in to change, but that facility exists with us if clients do wish to change. So that's inclusion, Honourable Chairperson. The termination of the MSA is merely just an administrative matter between Sassa and Postbank, largely stemming from the termination of the over-the-counter services and the cash pay points a while ago. It was a lengthy termination because those are the clauses that are provided for in the MSA, and at Sassa all services will continue as normal. Grants will be paid into the beneficiaries' bank accounts as normal. Postbank will also continue to providing their banking services, and all their clients will be able to access their normal banking channels as normal. Thanks, Honourable Chair. I'll pause there.
Thank you, Mr. Van Vrede, for that presentation, and thank you, Minister. It was, as per your reference, that he does the presentation. So, during the presentation by Mr. Van Vrede, he also just confirmed, even in my mind, that we do need to reconvene or convene the meeting with the SARB just to get the assurance that we have gotten now on the part of Sassa in this regard. So, honourable members, this is now the time for deliberations. For me, the presentation was straightforward. I am assured of not receiving 645 WhatsApps and calls and emails and everything else in between from panicking social grant recipients. So thank you for that presentation. I will now hand over to the members of the Portfolio Committee for their comments and questions to the South African Social Services Agencies. Honourable Abrams.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation. Chairperson, once again, listening to the presentation, I'm still convinced that, Postbank should have been invited to the meeting, because once again, the comments made that Postbank is a fully licensed bank. They aren't a fully licensed bank. They don't have all their licenses. And I recall one of the primary reasons why Sassa entered into the arrangement with Postbank was because Postbank didn't allow for debit orders. And at the time, one of the big problems were unlawful deductions from beneficiaries' accounts. And therefore, moving to Postbank, that who didn't have that function, that solved that problem, only to then see not too long ago Sassa putting out a statement to say that there are still unlawful deductions, taking place with regards to insurance companies. So I do hope maybe you can touch on that and what has been done to address unlawful deductions, because I thought that we were over that challenge, but it still persists. And then, coming back to yesterday, Chairperson, I received a memorandum from a group of seniors outside who marched to the gates of Parliament yesterday. And it once again highlighted that there's a trust deficit between South African citizens and Sassa, and that's been well documented over the years when it comes to all their challenges and their hardships when dealing with Sassa. And that is why this meeting was, so important, because we've been in similar situations where confirmation and commitments and guarantees were made to beneficiaries that they will receive uninterrupted payment, and then that just never took place. So this oversight is non-negotiable, and thank you for the commitment that there will be uninterrupted payments. But again, that is to be seen come the first week of October. Then, Chairperson, on the comments made that the MSA is no longer as significant, and is no longer relative, and there'll be no new service provider that will be brought on board, and that Sassa beneficiaries will now be using the bank account of their choice. To me, it raises a serious question that of then the relevance of third parties in the very instance, the very first beginning, and going back to CPS and all of that, and the 360 million that was lost through maladministration, and then of course the initial relevance of the SAPO contract and the Postbank contract, because if Regulation 23.1, which was previously Regulation 21.1, if that regulation was always there since it was gazetted, why did Sassa, and Minister, understand you inherited Sassa, it's your first term here, so it's questions to previous ministers and previous administrations, but there are still some Sassa staff who's been with the institution for a long, long time. So if that Regulation 21, now Regulation 23, was always in existence, why was it never sufficiently implemented? Why did Sassa not choose to actively promote this regulation and tell beneficiaries and advise beneficiaries of their choice, that they always had this choice of a bank account, that they never had to go to SAPO, they never had to go to Postbank, and most certainly we did not have to enter into agreement with CPS at the time if this regulation was always there. And the reason I asked that question, because it would have solved us as a country and as a people a lot of suffering when it came to long queues at cash pay points, all the long queues when it came to card renewals, whether it was the gold card, the black card. It would have solved a lot of problems when it came to fraud and corruption of the cash pay points, the armed robberies, all that trauma that went along with that of beneficiaries queuing, not receiving their money because there wasn't enough money that arrived, and unlawful deductions, and all the expensive tenders when it came to cash in transit vehicles and venues, and just everything that went with cash pay points. And knowing that this regulation 21, now 23, was always there. The option was always there. And the regulation is actually a traceable way to keep track of the money, whereas cash pay points had limited checks and balances. It was open to a lot of theft. And Regulation 21 was also a way to bank the unbanked. And from what I understand, that is part of Sassa's own policy. So that is my burning question. Why put the beneficiaries through all of this, and then still today not throw the full force of Sassa's communication and marketing and awareness campaigns behind Regulation 23 and get them a lot sooner off a system that's been plagued with so many problems. And I would then also further say that, the poor implementation and the poor education on Regulation 23 has not only cost Sassa and Postbank and SAPO and the government at large financially, but it's also cost these entities, reputational damage. And that is something that takes a long time to build up their reputation and credibility and trust with the beneficiaries. And not just to mention the financial cost, but the human cost as well, when children went to bed hungry and grants weren't paid and medication couldn't be bought and so forth. And to say in Sassa's presentation, Chairperson, that, this regulation was well known, I disagree with that, and I think it's disingenuous that it was well known from day one. Because if it was so well known, why did so many beneficiaries in wheelchairs, seniors who were so old, stand in those long queues to get black cards in the first place? If they knew they could have just gone to any bank to open up account or to get their grant paid, why did they have to travel and pay for transport costs to travel to SAPO branches that were outside of their towns because their branch had closed, if this was so well known. And, I would even go as far to argue that it was almost deliberate that beneficiaries were not made aware of this regulation, because there was always an intention to prop up SAPO and the Postbank in this vision of it one day becoming a state bank. So I do want to ask a question in that if the MSA between SAPO has been repealed and no longer in effect, how then is SAPO still legally paying the Quad 7 beneficiaries? Is that then outside of this agreement? How is SAPO then legally paying those Quad 7 beneficiaries? And then is the internal dispute between Sassa and the Postbank officially concluded? Because that would have been another reason why Postbank would have been so relevant here, for them to also say, yes, it's been concluded, or no, it hasn't been officially concluded. And I'd also like to know what was the total value of the MSA contract with SAPO and the Postbank, and this money that will no longer be spent on the contract, will that be now declared a savings? What is going to happen with that surplus of funds? And again, has beneficiaries who use Postbank been made aware of the fact that this contract is coming to an end, and that Sassa will no longer be paying Postbank a service fee, and therefore Postbank, the free bank charges that Postbank gives their beneficiaries, that they'll now have to be charged, if that makes sense. That Postbank will eventually having to be charged for their services, because that will also determine whether they stay with Postbank or not, because now Postbank's going to have to charge them a bank service fee. And then just lastly, if there any backlogs with regard to the capturing of bank change forms. And then, Minister, in your opening remarks, you made a comment that you're going to be, I can't remember the exact word you used, but you said you're going to be you're going to look out for, mindful, if there are any changes to regulations that are going to arise. Are you planning to amend anything in the Social Assistance Act and the regulations, specifically aimed at Regulation 23? And if there is no new service provider, are you planning to build systems now in-house, Sassa, and somehow at a later date bring beneficiaries back in-house and in turn pay yourself what you were paying in this MSA contract? I'll leave it at that, Chairperson, and then just some guidance in that the questions that I had for the South African Reserve Bank, if we can send those questions to them in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Abrams. Your last point there on the sending of questions, I believe if you have questions for any of the organizations or institutions that we are meeting, we were supposed to meet with today, you can actually send those questions. You have that as a member of parliament. You can ask a question from anyone for that matter. So thank you for that. The Honorable Tafeni was indicated that she would like to ask her questions. And then I recognize your hand, Honorable Mare and Honorable Bishop Msweni thereafter. Honorable Tafeni.
Enkosi sihlalo mandibulele, ndibulise kuwe sihlalo, ndibulise umphathiswa, usekela mphathiswa, ndibulise amagosa wesebe lezenhlalontle, amagosa wekomiti, ndibulise ne-members, ndibulele nge-presentation. Chairperson, whilst I fully understand the reason behind the termination of the contract with the Post Bank, I still need further explanation as to how will the agency will now operate without a distributing service provider to various bank account of grant recipient. Secondly, Chairperson, please explain how the so-called switching off facilities payment system by Sassa will work, and what are the cost implications compared to using the distribution service under the current contract, which is about to be termination. I thank you, Chairperson. I only have 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tafeni, for that. The Honorable Mare.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I would like to greet the Minister, Deputy Minister, CEO, Acting CEO, and then the DG and all your team. And then to all my colleagues here with the staff members. Chairperson, in February 2023, we had a workshop in Johannesburg. And I was part of that workshop. Unfortunately, the minister was not there. We had the previous minister there. And they brought a lady the last day of Postbank, a white lady sitting next to me. She was from Bloemfontein, from the head office there. And I was objecting to this thing of post office. And I was telling them, the post office is already bankrupt. You cannot inject money into a dying horse already. That was my words. And some of these guys sitting here, they were there. And I said to them, this thing is not going to work, Chairperson. And I see in November that year, they went to say, December, they said they requested for a 6 months notice under clause 5.1 to Postbank to terminate the MSA. And then they said, no, they want an 18-month notice. Chairperson, my question is, you knew from the beginning it was a wrong decision. You still went ahead. Today, we're sitting with a problem where old people were standing in queues for a black card, some dying, some collapsing, some hungry, some standing for days in queues, knowing that this thing is not going to work. knowing that afterwards you must say people can still use the go-karts. I think it was very unfair towards our old people. And I think you need to go and say, apologize to our old people. Because today you are saying, 2 weeks ago I was in church and I said to the priest, can I say something to the old people? And I spoke to them about Sassa, because in my church, we cannot speak about politics. I said, this is not politics. This is now about our old people and Sassa money. Because I was the one calling the CEO to say that monies are still being deducted from old people. I got 3 people's money that stays in Bloemfontein, but the head office of this company is in Stellenbosch. I got the old people's money back from pension, from this funeral benefits. Just yesterday in ShopRite, the old lady was asking me, there's people, you have a whole group of these people where the money's been deducted. And this owner of the insurance company called me to say, look here, I belong to Emeralds, but I have an agreement with Sassa. That is why I called the CEO to say, look here, do you have an agreement with Emeralds? Because this guy is want to have a meeting with me because he's having an agreement. And they go around the people there in my area saying, we are working for Sassa. That is why I called the CEO. That is why the CEO could come out with this thing and saying they're not part. He told me, no, member, we don't have agreement with anyone to deduct money. No? So old people are losing their money, don't know where the money is going to. And it was promised to the old people when they stopped the termination of Cash Master that unlawful deduction is not going to happen, but it is still happening. The thing that I want to say is that I just feel that even now at Sassa, there's a backlog for people to bring their bank account numbers from this gold cards and black cards, because I've been there. And they said it will take 2 to 3 months to sort this backlog out. I just want to know how long is this backlog going to take, and how long it's going to take for people to change from the bank, from the Sassa Post Bank to an ordinary bank. I said any bank, I don't care which bank you are using. And even the minister told me when we were in Parliament, she was saying, you know what, we are fighting with Sassa, we are fighting with Post Bank. But you know what? I said to the minister, I'm telling people, go to any bank you want to. I told her there in Parliament. So the pain or the hardship must come from Sassa. Sassa must apologize to our people, because this is unacceptable. You knew it's going to end. You know that you're saying now the black cards and the gold cards can continue. Till how long can it continue? Because I just have a problem, because some gold card people couldn't get their money. They had to go back to Sassa and to Post Bank. And Post Banks don't have offices. And that is where the problem comes in, Chairperson. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a good thing, because Post Bank is not going to deliver on anything. I warned you about it, and I was right. Say, yes, you were right, that Post Bank wasn't going to work. And sometimes it's good to listen. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Murray. I just have a very unrelated, but to sort of answer one or half a question that was asked by the Honorable Abrahams earlier on. So I have a mother that turns 95 next month. So as a good child that I am, believe it or not, I wanted to make sure that my mother has a bank account, so that when I send her money as her child, she received this money in a bank account. And my mother tells me over her dead body, she wants to see her money in her hand. This thing of banks and whatever, she doesn't trust any bank, she doesn't trust anyone with her money, she wants her money in her hand. I just wanted to let you know. I don't know how many other 95-year-olds feel the same, so that you know that none of any of these solutions that we're coming up will work for everybody. So, yeah. Any other questions from the, Honorable Bishop.
Mphathi Sihlalo, ngiyabingelela amalungu onke ahloniphekile alendlu. Siyabonga. Siyabonga isethulo esihle esisitholayo sivela emnyangweni wezokuholela. Basinikeza ke Mphathi Sihlalo isiqinisekiso sokuthi lolu shintsho aluzukuphazamisa lutho ekuthenini abantu bathole lokho ababonelelwa ngakho uhulumeni. Sizobona mase sifikile khona ukuthi abaphazamiseki ngempela yini abantu bakithi. Mphathi sihlalo, ayikho into eyongenza ngishintshe indlela engibona ngayo usizi lomuntu omnyama olwadalwa ukususwa kwezikhungo zokuholela eindaweni zabantu. Mhlawumbe uma ngingafa ke ngingabi kulelizwe la lento ngiyibona khona umcabango wami uyoshintsha. Njengoba ngibuka lesi sethulo ngiyazibuza ukuthi yayingekho yini indlela ngoba ngiyabuka ukuthi lento yenzeke lapha ko-2018 sasivotile. Masa sivota sasivotela umehluko sihlalo. Masa sasivotela ukuthi aphathwe kangcono umuntu onsundu emva kosizi lweminyaka emide la ebephathwa khona njengesilwane. Masa sasivotela ukuthi uyocatshangelwa enzelwe into engcono kuyo yonke into eyenziwayo ezweni lakhe. Manje umbuzo wami sihlalo uthi kwangeke ni mhlambe kwenezelwe isecurity ukuvikelwa kwemali iyofika kubantu. Lento usihlalo ayishoyo sisenkingeni sonke nje abantu abadala bafuna imali yabo esandleni sabo bayifuna iphatheka izwa. Awukwazi ukubashintsha umqondo kuleyo nto kodwa ngaphezulu kwalokho ukubuka uhlobo oluningi losizi olufika naleyo nto. Ngize ngifise sihlalo mangihamba la ngaphandle emhlabeni ukuthi sengathi singake zivakashe nje njoba siyilendlu ke siyobuka mase kuthiwa bayahola. Mhlambe siwabuke namabanga abawahambayo. Sithi wena gogo usukaphi. Mhlambe ke silihambe lelo banga silibuke bese sibuka ukuthi kumlimaza kangakanani ukuhamba leli banga alihambayo. Angizukuba mude sihlalo kodwa mhlawumbe ngiyoba ngcono mangathi walubuye lwabukwa lolu daba lwabukwa ngenye indlela engithi yindlela ecabangela umuntu onsundu. Kulesi sethulo asibona inkinga njengoba sithi amanye amazibuko sibona mase sifike kuwo ukuthi ayaweleka yini. Siyobona mhla sifika kuleli zibuko evikini lokuqala lenyanga ukuthi leli zibuko esethulelwa lona liyaweleka yini lingamphazamisanga umuntu okufanele ukuthi awele. Okugcina mphathi sihlalo ngiyafisa ukuthi sihlalo wami ohloniphekayo umnyango wezokholela ulubukele eduze udaba lobugebengu. Ubugebengu obudala ukuhlukumezeka ngoba sihlalo wami ohloniphekileyo umuntu ontshontsha le mali untshontshelwa umfelokazi nentandane. Ngoba le mali ibheke ukulekelela umfelokazi nentandane nanomunye umuntu ososizini olunzima la uhulumeni lulisandla ukuthi akaboneleleke khona. Ulubukele eduze udaba lobugebengu ngoba ubugebengu benziwa abantu abahlakaniphileyo nabafundileyo. Abantu abakwazi ukurobha isystem, abantu abahlakaniphileyo nabafundileyo lapho. Umuntu walekithi emakhaya akakwazi ungena kwisystem enze ukuthi abe namakhadi awu30 yena ahole akhe istairs. Lobo bugebengu sibubuke ngaphandle kubantu nje abale ngaphandle sibuke nangaphakathi ngoba maye khona umuntu ongaphakathi wenza ubugebengu obenza kuntshontshwe imali yomfelokazi nemali yentandane unesona esibi. Thina sithandazayo njoba sikhona nje kulomnyango siyathandaza ngempela sihlalo ukuthi ngaphansi kweso lakho lomnyango ube nemphumela emihle kube khona abantu abawubusisayo bakubusise nawe njengoba uhleli kulesi sihlalo ngesikhathi besizakala hayi bekhala. Ngihluphekile sihlalo ngihlushwe ilisti ende ngaka yeingane enginazo engithola ezikoleni ezingenawo ama birth certificate. Mangilandela ukuthi yini kuthiwe ukuthi uma wayo akanayo iID. Angithi ke siyazi ukuthi izingane zanamhlanje zingane zeingane. Lengane okuthiwa uma wayo akanayo iID kushiwo omunye nje u15 18 years. Bese uthi ngicela ukuthola ugogo mhlambe ingane ngiyilinke naye ukuze ingane phela iqhamule kulokho okutholwayo ukwazi ukuphila okuthiwa nogogo akakazabe nayo. Sihlele ezweni elinjani mali nje na kuyongithokozisa ukuze ukuthi Umnyango uthini ngalezi zimo sihlangabeza kanjani izimo nje uma sinabantu abaningi kangaka esibathola emndenini la ingangeni khona imali ye grant ngenxa ukuthi abana document sihlalo angithokoza.
Siyabonga sisi. Honorable Mare was looking at you so closely. I'm sure she was understanding every word. Okay, I think also for the benefit of the people that may not understand, because also the issue with the Honorable Mtsweni is that she speaks the isiZulu that is only spoken at home in KZN. So it was the thanking of the presentation and the solution that it is bringing, very welcome, but nothing will change her mind about the concern that she has on the termination of the pay points, because obviously of the problems, of the issues that she has raised many times in the past, of the local economies, locally informal economies that were generated during the pay points when people go to fetch their monies and so on and so forth. So nothing will change her mind about that. It doesn't matter what presentation we make in this committee. But also, like anything, while she welcomes this presentation, it is only in the crossing of the bridge that she will be able to say, well, what was presented was really helpful, or is going to be very helpful to the people. And as I said, she also knows of many, many people who want to see their money in their hands and not through some bank and any other situation that is happening. The other thing that she was talking about is that the department or Sassa has to really monitor closely the corruption that's taking place in the grant payments space, because if you have people that are driving around with 30 cards in the boot of their cars and opening and just withdrawing money and so on and so forth, those are the smart people. It's not stupid people who are uneducated and poor and vulnerable somewhere in some rural area. It's very, very smart people. And if those people are working with people inside Sassa, please monitor that closely and bring those people to book. And then the last thing, because I said I was summarizing, there were a lot of anecdotes that came with this summary that I'm giving. The last situation that she was speaking to is the issue of people that she meets. She has a long, long list of people that have children, women, mothers that have children that have no birth certificate. And then because those mothers themselves are young people, they are in 15, 18 years old, then you ask them, they also have no ID. And then you say, can I then maybe speak to the gogo of the mother of the baby? And gogo also doesn't have any ID. What is the role of the department and Sassa, obviously, to ensure that this doesn't happen, because then these people are totally excluded from benefiting from the social grants that this government is saying it is looking after the people, but these people are automatically excluded from that. Is there a role that this department is playing? Is there no role that it is playing? What is the situation as far as that is concerned? I don't know if I left anything, Honourable Mtsweni. The Honourable seems to be giving me a thumbs up, so that is the question, as it were. Honourable Munyai.
Thank you very much indeed, Honourable Chair. One, welcome the presentation by Sassa. And also, after that presentation, it is very clear that one have many many more questions that need to arise from the Post Bank and the South African Reserve Bank, who could not be here, in addition to the question that I'm going to ask Sassa. So in that context, Chair, I think it remains my view that the next meeting be the joint meeting. We must call South African Reserve Bank. We must call the Post Bank. This, it must be done, I must say that, in the context, because in the context of the, what we call Audi Altram Patem, to hear the other side of the presenters as well. So, not that we did not receive presentation today. I'm going to ask on the presentation of Sassa, but one have more question to the other. So therefore, instead of writing what you proposed to Honorable Adams to say that you can write a question anyway, and I'm trying to avoid that issue that they don't account to us, which is good, but rules of the Parliament or on Portfolio Committee allows for that to happen. I'm raising this because due to the gravity and the seriousness of the nature, and I'm sure Reserve Bank, if they were here today, they will help a great deal. Let me shoot now to the presentation made by Sassa, because this is important, Chairperson. Participatory democracy is the cornerstone of new democratic dispensation. Let me go down now to the question that the Sassa would have presented. And I think on the presentation, there's an invocation of clause 5.1, which touch the services relating to over-the-counter and the cash payment. Why was the termination not pursued on the grounds of fundamental breach and frustration of the contract due to disappearance of the MSA core object matter, rather than the full exit clause? And the other question was there any legal opinion perhaps department would have pursued? I'm raising this because there could be legal mind. Is there any legal opinion assisting the if it was done? If it was not done, no problem, because contract is based on there are various clauses that and the basis that can be utilized by the department, as presented by the presenter earlier. And I'm just saying these issues that to avoid lesser contentious and root that deal with the breach of the claim. That is the key issues. And I can see that with respect to the 8 months notice period on the contract stated, what were the specific operational and financial obligation during the notice period? I heard the presenter spoke about Sassa used to give them 3 billion. You are giving them 3 billion every month. And I'm raising the notice period to justify its length and what is the total cost to Sassa. And I'm saying this 3 billion so that it must be confirmed on record, because by extension, I want to understand the fiscal implications of maintaining or not maintaining this agreement on the period of notice given. On the risk management and contingency planning, what specific measures reassures or independent audits that confirm post-operational and financial capacity, saving over what you said, 3 million, over 3 million people that were saving, that Post Bank serves. Yeah, over 3 million people or beneficiaries. because I'm raising these issues because it's very critical that when you mitigate, when you do come with some mitigation, it's very important that we must also note that. I'm not placing an argument against or for, because we are still going to meet the other stakeholders as proposed. What are the precise proactive? Now, this is, you remember the media sometimes can play in the hands of the, can play a lot of role. Issues of misinformation and the panic. How are you going to, what precise proactive multilingual public communication strategy? I'm raising this because I'm seeing the media propaganda there. So the multilingual public communication strategy, is it in place to prevent a widespread panic and misinformation among these 3 million beneficiaries, who are the most vulnerable and potentially less digitally literate population? And I'm saying that it's not everyone in our society that is literate. The access to internet across the country, and I'm sure the minister, when she came in earlier, she was raising these issues after the termination of the cash delivery. There are still under people that are not served in rural areas. And I'm saying there are still less digitally literate because the digital penetration is on the urban areas in majorities. How will you directly reach them to counter the scammers who will inevitably exploit this news? Because as even myself, I'm vulnerable for scamming. You get several calls, they want you to do the PIN. How do we manage the issue of potential scamming? Scamming, even ourselves as professionals, we also get scammed sometimes. Switching capacity and support, I think you raised that issue, so I'm not going to ask it. But also just note that there will be a lot of strain capacity that may be there. Remember, you deployed, I think, 20 million just to support on the switch of the cards, period, and capacity to make sure that you deal with the queues. So let's make sure that if that will be when the decision is taken, then those issues need to be noted. Oversight during the wind-down period. I'm not going to go to details of any other question because they require some clarities from other organizations on the risks, strategic thinking behind those issues. Those issues are really, that can be clarified. Issues of fiduciary duties can be clarified by the regulator. Regulator, in this time I'm referring to South African Reserve Bank. The person that was being regulated is the Post Bank. So that was the basis of that, those stakeholders, as proposed by Honorable Adams initially, could be pursued. But to say the presentation by the department, it's very clear, but I'm saying that the key issue for us is to further deliberate on the issues that the Reserve Bank and the Post Bank will put forward. And today's agenda was about what are the post-termination impact, which has been taken forward before this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Munyai. I think the one point that I left out that was made by the Honorable Mtsweni was her wish that everybody in this room, if they could go on an oversight, go to the most rural of rural areas in this country and see what happens when these, especially older persons, are going for the grants, and find out from them how long they have traveled from their homes to where they would be met. So she is placing that as a wish, and
While you conclude on 20s, going backward, I'm saying that the challenges that has been presented by the department and by Sassa, we received them. And I'm saying that they were clarified in details by the presenter. Thank you.
I don't know, are you responding to me?
No, I'm not responding. I'm saying, in conclusion, the challenges
Oh, I thought you
that
had
they
concluded.
raised, we have
Okay.
noted them, yeah.
No problem. I thought you had concluded. I was, yeah. So, so thank you, Honorable Munyai. So the Honorable Msweni wants all of us here. How many of us are? We must go and do a oversight visit so that we can speak from experience rather than receiving messages. So the honorable members have all raised their points. Honorable Mare, you wanted to say
I would
something?
actually support the motion that she has brought forward, that we must go to oversight there, Chairperson. I'm just supporting. I said I would support the proposal that she made, that we must go to the rural areas, because I also would like to ask Sassa, what if I have come across a squatter camp of white people that doesn't even know about Sassa, and the children are at home not getting money? How do I do with that to make sure that all those children are getting Sassa money? I came across a farm where there's just white people staying in a school that used to be a school that is no longer school. And not one of the children there or parents are getting Sassa, but everyone is unemployed. Thank you, Chairperson.
In seconding the proposal by the Honorable Msweni, the Honorable Mare is giving us an even more specific situation that she's come across. So I hope that the content advisor and the secretary and everybody else is noting that. I wish to now go back to the department, and so the Honorable Minister will do the honors again in fielding the responses to the questions. Over to you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you to the honorable members. I will request that the acting CEO, DDG Brenda, and the CFO to please respond to the questions accordingly. However, I would want to emphasize the fact that, Honorable Chairperson and members, we got into partnership between ourselves and Post Office at the time through a court outcome. It was never Sassa's choice. Post Office was a friend of the court at the time, and it volunteered itself to say, in this problem that you are going to experience, I can assist. And at that point, Post Office was considered. I just want to emphasize that point, Chair, so that we clarified it to say there was never a situation where we chose Post Office as a partner. It was out of the problems between Sassa and CPS at the time, which Black Sash took that matter to court, rightly so. And this arrangement was a court outcome, which Sassa as an entity of government had to abide to the outcome. As such, as we have said earlier on, in the implementation of that, Post Office come in, Treasurer allowed deviation, which honorable members know what it means. That cannot be sustained forever, because it gives you an automatical audit query, and it reflects to your audit outcome. So I thought, Chair, so that we don't go back and forth, we must just explain that one. That all the institutions that were relevant at the point agreed on the arrangement. Because of exactly what the honorable members are articulating, the frustrations that our people were going to get into. Hence, Post Bank, which at the time was the most relevant institution because it had a relevant infrastructure. There was post office in even most rural areas. There was nothing other than that. That is a government institution. So the relevance of post office at the time was informed with that, and treasurer gave a deviation. That we sustained until now, which, if I may, CFO, if we are still in it, in September, in the next round of audit, we are going to get an opinion. Why now? We can't tell, because HSA is an independent institution. Why is that not being an audit query now? It's because we committed that anyway we are on the exit of this MSA. By end of September, we would have concluded this, and come the following month, there will be no such. We were trusted. We wish the committee can assist us to be trusted once again on this one, because I know from where I'm seated that the committee will not find joy if we forever come with these very bad audit outcomes, even when we are made to be aware of them, and they are so coming, and we could not avoid them. We know now that AGSA has got powers more than the president. We can be personally liable on the mistakes that we are committing, especially mistakes that we are aware of far before they were picked up. Again, Chair, even though we don't want to come back, Honorable Mtsweni, to go back to where we're coming from, that we understand very well the difficulties that our people are going through, not out of Sassa's making, but with the facts that we found at the time of the situation that we experienced when Post Bank had to close down. I am from a township. I know what was going on the day the grants were distributed. I'm an activist. I know by heart a distance between Molteno and Stekstrom, where people should travel from Stekstrom to Molteno, which is more than 60 km, just to go and pick up their grant, because the service in Stekstrom at a point were not in working condition. We're quite aware of those conditions, and we are really quite aware of what our people are going through. But what we are given at the moment is that until end of September, we work with all banks as well as Post Bank until September, because the arrangement forced the system to take the payments to all other banks as well as Post Bank. So I thought I must emphasize those, Honorable Chairperson, to say there are things that, yes, we can be judged, but we must emphasize that some of them are not our own making. It is the situation on the ground that took away the economy that used to take place, the local economy that used to take place on the day when the grants are being distributed. However, we are where we are. because of those circumstances. Chair, the issue of gold cards and black cards, like all of the honorable members, we are looking forward to get to hear from Reserve Bank. Remember, it was Reserve Bank's directive to change yellow cards because Reserve Bank, from its own findings, got to realize that there was serious problem in the yellow card. Hence, it directed Post Bank to change it. That was a directive by Reserve Bank to Post Bank. We got involved directly when the deadlines of Post Bank were not met. And as such, Post Bank had to extend its deadlines. And that created a quagmire in the country. That made us to come and appear before this committee. We got involved because of Sassa Act. We emphasized at the time that we are by law responsible to implement and oversee the implementation of Sassa Act. That suggests that we should distribute the grants to the right person on the right time. That was between Reserve Bank and Post Bank became our problem, Honorable Marais, because of our responsibility. This is why, Chair, Sassa had to spend plus minus 20 million as a mitigation tool between the problem of Post Bank at the time, insofar as meeting their deadlines and their clients, and the directive from Reserve Bank. You can all remember, as honorable members are articulating, elder people were made to wake up at 1 a.m. to go and be on the queue at 5 a.m., not being attended to first day, second day, third day, or sometimes never attended to. Sometimes on the afternoon of the fourth day. It was during summer, there were no ablution systems, there were no chairs. Sassa had to come in and mitigate on the problem, and we did exactly that. This is why, Chair, we are looking forward to the meeting between yourselves and Reserve Bank to tell us how far did they go in playing oversight to Post Bank on card replacement. Because we were all taken by surprise when we got to be aware that, in fact, both cards are in use. Now, our question is whether what was picked up then is not recurring. Remember, that was not our responsibility. It was Reserve Bank responsibility. Our most fear, Honorable Chairperson, if Post Bank can say we are still paying people with a yellow card as well as in the black card, the reason of us still paying the yellow card is because they did not pitch up in more than one different deadlines. In more than one different deadlines. Our biggest fear is whether we are not paying ghosts. Which that will have to come out from SARB report. Because it was picked up by them, they monitor it. We are interested to get to hear their report so that they can share with us whether we are still on what was the arrangement of making sure that we replace the yellow card to the black card for reasons that were known because of their own understanding and had to be implemented by Post Bank. I thought I must talk about that so that I can make myself very, very clear on behalf of Sassa and the department. Chair, the issues of criminal activities, we are now, as South African, well aware that there are criminal activities that are taking place. This is why you have got more than 10 cases against Sassa officials who have manipulated our systems in paying the wrong people. And as such, they are appearing in court, and we have reported before this August House new ways of making sure that we address those gaps within our systems. This is why there's a noise and, again, a little bit of anxiety in the implementation of the new system, of making sure that people present themselves in the SASSA offices so that we can be assured that Sisisi Nongzola Dolashe is still alive. She is the correct person who's earning the grant. She does not get any kind of other remuneration as according to SASSA Act. This is the exercise that we are embarking on now. We know, Chair, and we understand that there's a little bit of anxiety, and we're appealing to our SASSA beneficiaries to be patient with us as we are distributing grant. We need to pay the right people. It's a little bit, has its own glitches, but we want to assure our people that we'll make sure that they get their money. On the issues of deductions, Chair, I'll request the officials to please come into that. But we have said earlier on, we have no arrangement for anyone else to deduct SASSA money. Ours is to deposit SASSA, the grants to the banks. When banks deduct, individual SASSA beneficiaries have a responsibility to find out from that bank who gave a go-ahead for those deductions. They are against the law, we all agree. But also, if you would remember, these are the reasons that made or created a tension between SASSA and CPS at the time. So they will remain a problem. So we want, once again, to appeal to our SASSA beneficiaries to be assisted to make sure that they go to their banks so that they can be explained why is it the case, and those deductions, if they don't know about them, they can be rescinded. On the backlogs, we are going to allow the officials to please talk about those. Honorable Chairperson, I thought I must just speak on the issues that talk to policies, and the detail should be led by acting CEO. But once again, we want to assure this committee that the relationship between ourselves with Post Bank is coming to an end at the end of September, as per the agreement we got into. We gave each other 6 months. Post Bank said it was too short. We communicated 18 months. In fact, it's not even 20 months now. It's not even 18 months, it's 20 months. Chair, it have to come to an end because that was a contract that we got into between ourselves and SASSA, and Post Bank. We want to apologize if we overemphasize ourselves to explain what Post Bank is. This is our understanding. If it's a wrong understanding, we profusely apologize. But all we know is that we've been in the relationship that did not work according to our expectation. Post Bank did not have the infrastructure that the post office had. Over the counter and the rural pay points. And that's what informed the change of that agreement initially. And where we are seated now, people are receiving their grants from their chosen banks by themselves. We don't choose until we got to realize that at the point, because we knew that banks are in town and in the rural areas there were none, hence the post office at the time, and later the Post Bank. And now, everyone else has a right to choose his or her own bank. we must once again explain that during the quagmire of card replacement, huge chunk of people left Post Bank to 4 other banks. All we do as Sassa is just to facilitate that when a client has taken that decision. We are not responsible to choose for clients. They chose themselves. All we need to do is make sure that we facilitate that, because we all know the following month, the process of distribution of grants must take place in a very seamless way, and everybody must receive his or her own grant as according to the Sassa Act. Chair, I thought I must just explain those fundamentals to say this is where we are today. We don't want to get to whether we agree with Post Bank or not. For us, this is neither here nor there. This was an agreement, and it is now coming to an end. And whether the two parties negotiate, it's upon themselves. But for where we are seated, we got into a situation where we're saying, as one partner, as according to the clause within, we are parting ways with our partner in a very amicable way, because this clause is within that agreement. It's reflected there. So this is where we are, with no heavy heart, Chair, we must say. It is because it gives us more challenges than joy would want to see. It is even now taking us into a situation where we can be held responsible if we proceed with the deviation of 2018. You all know what the implications are. Thank you very much, Chair. I would then give to CEO to take the technical questions about whether the other systems are taken care of, so that we lay the fears of the honorable members. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Just before you take over, Acting CEO, I forgot to ask the questions that I have postponed, asking until today. Recently, as recent, in fact, as yesterday or the day before yesterday, there were reports in the media which we appreciate and commend Sassa for, which is the biometric identification that is going ahead, because this committee and previous committees have always been wanting for this biometric identification to happen. And over time, there were reasons why it couldn't happen. There was a time when it had to do with the unions. There was a time when a whole lot of reasons were advanced as to why this biometric identification is not happening. So I said to the media reps that were wanting for me to state why it is said that the committee did not want the biometric identification. I said I cannot speak on behalf of a committee that has not heard the situation that you are talking about, and until I will have gotten if you like, an official sort of response from the department and Sassa. So if you could please speak to the issue of biometric identification as was presented by the CEO recently. And the other question also has to do with home visits. Now, the verifications, this committee has agreed that these verifications are needed, these reviews are needed, they have to happen because they are going to root out the ghosts and the other things that are happening in the system at the moment. Now, given the staff complement at Sassa that we were, again, the presentation did say that it was sitting at 45 to 50%. And the home visits don't seem to be happening at a rate that they used to happen, as I know it, because they used to happen quite, frequently and efficiently before. And one can only assume that it's because of the the capacity issues. But I would also like that to be clarified when you do your responses, acting CEO, because the people keep coming back to us, and I keep coming back to you in your other capacity, not the acting CEO capacity. I just need to be able to tell people what I've been saying in the recent past is that I will ask for a home visit, but there are constraints, capacity constraints, but I will escalate for you, and and so on and so forth. If you could just please speak to that as well, please. Thank you so much.
Chair, just as a matter of emphasis, from when the contract has come to an end, we don't need any third party. There will be no tender, there will be no recruitment of any other third party. As it is the case now, Sassa pay grants directly to Sassa recipients. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Minister, Honourable Chairperson, members. Let me start with your questions, Honourable Chair. So with biometrics, we've been on a long journey towards the rollout of biometrics. As you've mentioned, we've been here a few times. The committee has deliberated on this. One of the big challenges were with the unions, organised labour, and that issue has now been resolved. We have been piloting the biometric system since the beginning of this financial year. So we've in a few of our offices, actually in all of our offices, but on a small scale, we split our staff an 80-20 principle just to start seeing how biometrics will impact services. There were issues. We've ironed out those issues. We've changed some processes, and we believe we are now ready to be able to go live with biometrics from the 1st of September for all new grant applicants. So we're not saying everyone must come in and be biometrically enrolled, but we want to make sure that every new grant application from the 1st of September has biometric enrollments. We do acknowledge that sometimes we have interface challenges with Home Affairs, so we do have an override on the system that enables us to take the biometric of the person in the office, and if the Home Affairs system is down, it takes it, stores it, and checks later against Home Affairs when that system comes back on, so that the processing can still continue in the local offices, but the biometrics will be checked before the grant goes into the payment process. And yes, and obviously we'll monitor that implementation closely. We have various risk plans, including full rollback if there's a system crash or so forth, so that we can, if something happens, we can then address it and make sure that processes continues and that we don't come to a complete standstill in that month. But I'm sure we're going to be coming to you for a first quarter report sometime soon, so I'll give you a little bit. So in our pilots, we did pick up problems with biometrics, and so you'll see performance in first quarter has dropped, but we believe we have now addressed those issues, and in our second quarter, you will see improved performance again. With the cases of home visits, yes, home visits is as all our services, is impacted by the amount of staff we have available. However, we do still commit to doing home visits for people that meet the category, the criteria for home visits. And I take it then, Chairperson, you're following up on all those requests you sent me, and I'll definitely make sure that I think most of them were, or quite a few of them were from the Western Cape region, and I'll have an engagement with the REM before I leave Cape Town. With regards to funeral insurance, I think it was raised by both Honourable Murray and Honourable Abrams. So if one goes the historic background, the Constitutional Court case, the issues with the black sash that they've raised during that time, a lot of it was related to the service provider that Sassa was using at the time with CPS. So we believe that environment has cleaned up significantly if you look at what was happening in that era of prior to 2012, sorry, 2012 to 2018 versus now. But yes, there is still, there are still many funeral insurance companies who still sort of take advantage of that model. So in terms, there is a regulation in the social assistance regulation that allows for funeral deductions, which we manage from Sassa head office, and we've got quite a tight system that we've put in place where everything is also, so we have biometrics in that space, we have triple confirmations, voice recordings, all of that in place to make sure that these contracts don't happen without the full consent of the beneficiary. If a beneficiary then has a dispute, they can lodge that with us, and we will listen to all of those recordings, etc. And and all the service providers that participate in that have agreement that if they are found to be wanting in any of their processes, they will issue a full refund to the beneficiary, as well as if they are misbehaving and they get flagged for misbehaving for too long, they also get booted from the system, so they won't be able to participate. So we have found that has cleaned up that environment quite a lot, but obviously there'll still always be people that will take a chance and do that, but the important thing is to then report it. As Minister mentioned, on the other side though, when someone's doing a debit order against an account, that is something that Sassa doesn't necessarily then have control over, and one would have to lodge that dispute with the relevant bank. I think it was Honourable Abrams that mentioned that the Postbank account doesn't allow for debit orders. That was a commitment they made in the Constitutional Court when they said they can take over, they can provide this function. So one would assume that they would continue that as a service, as a special type of account or service. And there are other banks as well that provides what they call light accounts that's basically just for transacting, that doesn't allow debit orders or the more complicated functionality on those accounts. With the use of third parties, so I think it's important that this has been a journey from 2012, where we used to have over 10,000 cash pay points, to where we are now, where we 100% paying through bank accounts. And it's a journey that involved banking over, if you look at our client base now, it's about 19 million. I think back then we could have been about 10 million or so. So it wasn't something that could happen overnight. There was various steps that Sassa had to put in place. So if you look at the CPS era of the contract, 2012 to 2019, they pretty much did everything for us. They even paid the bank account. So there might have been about 1 million or so people getting their money paid into a bank account. We would pay CPS, CPS would then distribute the money to the different bank accounts. When the SAPO took over, we took over that functionality so that we can now pay money into bank accounts. But we didn't have our own system, so we used the Pacel system that's under National Treasury, is the same system that we used to pay government salaries with. We have now built our own system, and as of 1st of April this year, we're now actually running our own system where we're paying money directly into the bank accounts of beneficiaries. So that was a transition over a number of years. The question around whether there's a deliberate intent for us not to market regulation 2023, I think if you just look at the Postbank numbers, when Postbank took over the contract from SAPO in October 2022, they had 6 million clients. If you look at where they are now, they have 2 million, besides the COVID SRD. So they've lost 4 million clients. If you look at the period between where they were doing the card replacement, just in that 2 months, March and February and March, 900,000 people switched to other banks. So Sassa is not deliberately not wanting people to switch. If people want to switch, we will support them as best as we can. In terms of backlogs, I don't want to say we don't have backlogs because Honourable Member reported that there are backlogs. We're getting reports from our regions that the backlogs from back then have been resolved, but I will engage with you further just to make sure that the region or the area where the backlogs have been reported, we can address that and investigate and look into what's happening there. In terms of Postbank charging a service fee and us communicating around that, at this stage we have no indication that they will charge a service fee. We don't believe it would be in their best interest to charge a service fee because everything, if you look at the service they're offering now, which is essentially a free bank account, many banks offer free bank accounts. So as the moment you start charging a service fee for a bank account, they'll be making themselves uncompetitive. If you look at, so the other thing that they're offering is free withdrawals at point of sale devices. That's at a merchant. Many banks offer that as well. Again, if they were to charge a service fee on that, they would be making themselves uncompetitive. So at this point, we don't expect them to be charging service fees. Obviously, that's a choice they have to make. They have not communicated any decision that they've made with regards to that, and if they do, then that's when one would communicate. So it's difficult to communicate something, and we can't communicate on behalf of the bank in terms of what they're going to do or what they will do. I think Honourable Munia also asked a question around communications, and that is, I suppose, the difficult part that we've been in is that this contract ends, everything stays the same. We didn't want to make a lot of noise because then you create the panic out there. Media often interprets the messages you're sending out incorrectly, and then you end up with large numbers of people swamping to your office to want to either change, and you have to then, if they want to change, you have to do the change, or your call center lines start crashing because you've got large numbers of calls coming in. People trying to find out what is happening. So our initial view was that there is, the change is nothing's going to change from the client perspective. There's no change in the services that Postbank's offering. Everything would have been normal. So we haven't gone on a big communications drive, but Honourable Chair, this is a public meeting, so we will definitely monitor the public space, and I'll ask Paseka just to say something on communications, which we will definitely then address proactively as the needs arise. With regards to the switching service, so in terms of switching, any client can come to a Sassa office. They would need to bring us a copy of their bank statement. That's just for us to check that the name on their bank account together with the account number is accurately captured on our system. Switching normally should happen within a month. The only reason we generated backlogs during the February-March period was because we had so many people coming forward, over 900,000 in that 2 months, and that did then create the backlogs. But on in normal business operations, switching should happen within the month. So if you come before the payment cutoff day, and officials will inform you when you come and do a bank switch, that so our cutoff days are normally the 20th of May, 20th of the month, so that because we have to run your payment systems to the bank. So if you come after that day, you're not going to get your money the next month. You're only going to get it the following month. But the official will then inform you to say, I'm going to hold this back, I'm going to process it next month, because if I process it now, you're not going to be getting payments. So let me rather just hold it back, process it the following month, early in the month, so your money can go in your new account in that month. in the next month, but you'll still get your money in the old account in the upcoming pay cycle. In terms of the group of, I see Honorable Marie has left, but I will contact her with regards to the group of people that she mentioned, and I'm sure if we could think of doing an outreach or seeing how the local office nearby that area can provide assistance to the group that she's mentioned. In terms of parents and children not having IDs, there is a regulation 26A, that provides Sassa to take an application without an ID. What we would normally then do is we request that, so we call it the alternative documentations for people that don't have IDs, to address the concern that if people don't have an ID, how do they still have that right to access a social grant? What we would then do is you'd need to bring an affidavit from someone that knows you, which could be, it could be a pastor from the church that says that I live in this area. If it's a child in school, it could be a affidavit from the principal, or it could be an affidavit from a traditional leader that says, you know, I know this person, they live in my community. Then we can still process your grant without an ID. We do, however, give you 3 months to go and lodge an application with Home Affairs, and then come back to us and show us that you have lodged an application with Home Affairs within 3 months. We know Home Affairs often takes a bit long, but as long as you can show you've at least started the process of applying for an ID, you can then continue to get the grant. And now as well, we've also implementing now it's mandatory for everyone, but as of beginning of this financial year, we've also implemented mandatory biometrics for people without IDs because of the concern of people could go to one local office, same person could go to another local office and apply, and you wouldn't know if someone was double dipping. I think I'm almost done. Let's see if can maybe Paseka take the comms question and CFO and DDG Sepeko can take the question around if there's going to be any regulatory amendments. Thanks, Chairperson.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Chair, Minister. I think I would address the question which was asked by Honorable Munyai. In actual fact, in terms of our communications plan, to make sure that we address his concerns, we basically partner with GCIS, which has got a penetration to about 120 community radio stations. We also deliberately bias to African language stations, and if I may just give honorable members the numbers, Ukhozi would have 7 million listenership, Umhlobo Wenene will have 4 million, let's say DFM will have 4 million, Tobela will have 2.6 million, Motsweding will have 2.3 million. All in all, it means they have about 19 million listenership. And obviously, we know that if I listen to something, I'm bound to tell somebody. So it would be 19 million by 2, which may be more than that. So the matter that is raised by Honorable Munyai, it is been taken care in our communications plan. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, Honorable Minister and Honorable DM. Let me just reflect. I think there was a question that talks about what we're thinking about around the savings that may come as a result of phasing out of the contract between ourselves and Postbank. I think when we came and presented the APP, we did put on record, Honorable Chair, that Sassa is already on the modernization and digitization program. And we did indicate that we did not get additional fees from Treasury at this particular point. So part of this money that we do, Chair, will come handy. Currently, we have already said to the committee that we need to do the reviews. We're already going to be able to spend a bit of money around there. I think we've already started now in local offices just to look at the amount that we need to be spending. We've had an engagement with Treasury around this. We'll be able to spend money just probably on getting contract workers in other instances, but also looking at alternative. We thinking that once the reviews gain momentum, we're likely to see more people within Sassa offices, and that we need to take care of. We also said we need to do the digitization of the current documents that we have. Currently, we're keeping just around 60 million records that we currently have. We need to conclude the back scanning of all existing hard copies of the files that we have for beneficiaries. They need to be scanned into electronic. We'll have to really put that project over the MTF just to be able to conclude on that process. I think honorable members have been complaining about and just indicating the state of office accommodation where we're servicing our beneficiaries. I think you'll be able to see over the MTF actual coming very strongly in terms of the maintenance and also in terms of the infrastructure where we're servicing our beneficiaries. We also really looking, Honorable Chair, just for us to really try to get some of the gadgets that are required, because if you do the modernization, you're going to require a lot of gadgets that could be different to what we are operating. We're also looking at the review of the architecture, which is the ICT architecture, just to look to make sure that we support this. So if we're doing the biometrics that the acting CEO has already spoken about, we're going to really need a bit of jack-up on other areas of the architecture, but also spending a bit of money in terms of the issues of cybersecurity. I think we have come here and indicated that if Sassa is moving to modernization and digitization, then it means that we are prone to risk of cybersecurity, and therefore we'll have to check up. So this is among some of the issues that we have to really look into. They will not happen immediately because we'll be left probably with 6 months after this. But over the MTF, you'll see some of these projects when we come to present to you, the APP coming 26, 27, there'll be some of those documents that will be coming to really deal with it. So I think that's what we will be dealing with, Chair. I think I've covered generally the issue of the savings, what we are thinking currently, and the discussions that is happening internally. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Chairperson. The question that I'm responding to is the one that relates to the regulation, whether we intend to change the regulations any further with respect to payment. The answer is no, there's no intention to do so, because the regulation already deals, the regulation we have now in place deals with the payment of beneficiaries adequately. It allows the beneficiary to make the choice about where to receive their money, whether to make any choice about the bank. The part that we changed was because Sassa had that responsibility to make a decision on behalf of the beneficiary. We took that decision away, which means it's now completely up to the beneficiary. And Sassa just has to make sure that whatever the beneficiary has chosen, then that is where the money must go. Once the money has gone into the bank account, after that, it's then in the beneficiary's hands how they are going to collect the money, whether they'll use an ATM or they'll go to inside a bank or they'll just go to a retailer. That part we cannot regulate. It's outside of the DSD's mandate in terms of how money flows within the economy. That's a banking function. It doesn't mean, however, that Sassa will not try where there are challenges to assist people or continue to engage with the banking industry. But it's not something that we can legislate. The primary thing for Sassa is to make sure that if the beneficiary has chosen a bank account, then the money goes into that bank account and only that bank account. So we will not be changing any regulations in that regard. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I take it that is the end of the responses. I just wanted, I heard a word quad 7 when we were talking about traditional leaders and principles. Is that what you were talking about? Can you respond to that? I didn't hear you when in your response to
Yes.
respond to the quad 7 situation.
So
I
the
don't know what it is.
quad sevens it's just an ID number, like an ID number that starts with 7777 that we generate for the person who doesn't have an ID number. Hence we call it a quad 7 number, but it's what we call in terms of the regulations a alternative identification process. Thanks.
Thank you. Honorable Munyai?
Oh, you said that the post bank use a bank for settlement, and you did not mention that bank. If you can update, please. And one issue, also other issue, Chair, is that our contribution should not be misunderstood as disrespecting the separation of power between the legislature and the executive. Because ourselves as the legislature, we cannot direct what the ministry must do or not do. We can't influence that minister must terminate or not terminate the contract. That's not our legislative terrain. But the issue that we can do in the context of our legislative oversight responsibility is to get feedback on the assurance on the contingency plans, because all those questions that I was raising is talking about the risk and mitigating factors that are in place or to be developed to guarantee that these 3 million populations or beneficiaries with respect to distribution of grants can proceed uninterrupted in the eminent post-bank designation, ultimately being withdrawn or terminated. So remember, we don't terminate, we're not the executive. But with respect to the issues of South African Reserve Bank, with relating to variation, notice, supervisory duties, fiduciary duties, and regulatory authorities, that will deal with when the Reserve Bank is here. And as I said, there are many questions that I have for Reserve Bank, equally for Post Bank, not to direct the ministry whether they must continue with the contract that they believe themselves it can give them audit finding. That's not the ANC point of view. I thought I should advance that view. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Munyai. Honorable Abrams?
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, I also was listening for the term quad 7, so I hope the acting CEO doesn't just mind repeating what he said in how is SAPO legally paying those quad 7s if that payment method has been repealed. And then, Chairperson, I also didn't hear very clearly. So I understand the minister said that the contract is terminated. It's finished, it's done according to Sassa and the department. But does that then also mean that the internal government dispute between the two entities, that process, is that also concluded? That was my question. And then, Chairperson, if the acting CEO mentioned that they are now using the same payment system as National Treasury, that National Treasury uses to pay government employees. And as government employees, everyone gets their salary on a date, the same date, every single month. And now the beneficiaries are using, are migrating and using, more commercial banks and so forth. They pay everybody's salary, same date, same month, every time. And I know I've raised this issue before, and I recall some of the responses I got in that, beneficiaries first need to be checked and verified and so forth and so on. But the call out there is still that why can't they then, if you're now using same systems as National Treasury does to pay all government employees, then why can't SASSA beneficiaries get paid on the same date every month. That is the plea again. And then since we now brought up biometrics, that will be, coming into effect 1st September. My question then is, if for argument's sake your in-person application takes an average 20 minutes, will this not further lengthen that in-person application process? And when I say lengthen it, it's because on my oversight here in Cape Town, not all officials have their own fingerprint scanners. They are sharing photocopiers and scanners. They don't have the resources they individually need to complete an in-person application within a decent amount of time. And that is why we're seeing such long queues, especially at Bellville office, because the staff there are not adequately resourced to do their jobs. So now we're bringing in the need for fingerprints to be taken and facial recognition to be taken, when, for example, the Bellville office still doesn't have any self-help kiosks. They don't even have the flat screen TVs that were part of the very first queue management system that's supposed to show the priority order of where people are supposed to come and receive the service. They don't even have that. And that's not just the Bellville office. It's many offices here in Cape Town and the Western Cape, when other provinces have the self-help kiosks and the flat screens to do the priority queue management. And Acting CEO, I've been struggling to get a meeting with your acting regional director here in the province. And I can't understand how I've given dates and him and his team is just so busy that they can't meet me to address some of these issues on queue management. So my question then is how is this going to affect the long queues we are seeing? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Abrams. Honourable Murray?
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I just want to follow up on the biometrics also. The people are going for verifications, and as you know, previously in Sassa, if you were an employer of the government, you used to get a certain amount of pension. And then as you grow older, the pension becomes less and less and less. And then you could actually apply for a Sassa grant. I'm going to make an example of my mother-in-law. She's 95 years old. She used to be a teacher, but she resigned when she retired when she was 60 years old. So she's been on the system now for 45 years, getting a pension grant from department. But as she was going along, the pension became smaller. She applied for a Sassa grant. In the beginning, she got 500 something, but now she's getting the full Sassa grant. So the other day, another lady calls me. Her father used to work at the municipality, but he's also in his late 80s. And the people at Sassa send her to go to the municipality, how many pension he got, what did he do with his pension, and why is he on a Sassa grant. I mean, that was the norm of Sassa, that you need to earn a certain amount of money to get a Sassa grant, and if you earn more than that, you don't get a Sassa grant. But as your Sassa, your ordinary pension reduces, you're becoming a Sassa grant recipient. I would like to understand how is that working, and why are they sending people from pillar to post of a grant that was long time finished. The pension fund is long time finished. Now the children must run because the parents can't do it, because the parents are too old to go to all these departments. And then my other question is, not a question, I want to follow up what the minister was saying about these gold cards and black cards. I have a member of parliament here. She is in parliament. She's also an EFF member. She notified me in March to say, Commissar, can you please assist me? My father went last year, March, to change the gold card to the black card. He got the black card, but ever since he got the black card, he could not use it. Every time they went back to the post office to go and say, look, my father can't use. So this year, March, when she went, they said there is something like 26,000 rand in there. She must first use that finish before she can even get a card for the father. Last Saturday, the father was buried in Matachele for 1 year and 6 months. He did not get his Sassa grant because of the black card did not operate properly. So someone within post office was using that money, because the person could tell her, your father's having 26,000 rand a year. It shows, but he can't get the money because the the card was never activated. So someone was using the money, because when she came back now with the funeral, she sent me, I asked the CEO, can you please look into this thing? So the CEO is investigating, but it's true what the minister's saying. Somewhere someone is getting money that is not supposed to get money. There's ghost people that's getting money from gold cards and from silver cards. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Murray. Honourable Abrams.
There was just one point, sorry, Chairperson, I forgot, on the biometrics. And if, will the new biometric system not render your online application process unusable, because persons would therefore need to visit an office to do their biometrics? How do you foresee then what was supposed to be established as e-services to alleviate queues and alleviate the pressure at the offices, now not being able to do new applications because they have to be there in person? Thank you.
Thank you, honourable members. I'm sorry about this. I asked just a question because I'm also allowed to ask questions, I would like to believe, and then I just open the gates, I don't know of what. So I'll hand back over to you again, Honourable Minister, and your team.
No.
Because these members want these answers today.
No, Chairperson, thank you very much. Don't feel bad, Chair. It's your responsibility and your committee. I want to emphasize once more, Chair, that this process is an administrative process. It is a pure administrative process. On whether there's a dispute or not, we got to hear that, in fact, we have a copy of a letter written by Postbank to the Minister of DPME talking about the dispute. We are not being copied. We just got to be informed by that letter. What is our position on the dispute if it might arise? We'll deal with the dispute at that time. However, the administration process must unfold. Chair, I joined the department, this process in place at the time when I had 3 meetings with Minister Malachi until, yes, he gave the responsibility to his deputy minister. I started to engage. I must assure you, Chair, all those meetings were initiated by myself in wanting to get to understand more about this matter and why we should part ways. Secondly, Chair, that is it about the dispute. Where we are seated, no one has written to us. We got to be informed. However, the process is unfolding as according to the correspondence, from 6 months to 18 months. 18 months comes to an end by end of September. That is it, Chair. Chair, on the biometrics, we, as the CFO was indicating, this has been presented before yourselves in this financial year. We really want to request for your indulgence to allow us to come back with our first quarter report, because at that time we would have assessed whether this is working, what are the challenges, what are the gaps, where are they, how are we intending to deal with the gaps. That will be our humble request, Chair. We are saying, as the CFO has just alluded to, we requested the Treasurer to allow us to have a special project in this to an extent of appointing contract workers so that we fast track this and ease the tension and the anxiety of our people, but allow us to come back, to come and report. It will be there by that time we come, because this is being experienced by people on a daily basis. So we'll come officially to come and present before yourselves to say, how is this project, how is it unfolding? What are its challenges? How do we intend to resolve those challenges so that we have this coherent process that don't have anything? Chair, I would go back to acting CEO to give answers to others, but I thought I must just assure you to say biometrics is something that you are embarking on during this financial year. And the second quarter, when we come to and report, we'll take you into confidence on exactly what is going on. With the activism that we see and experience from members, they will have a first-hand information on what is the experience. But you really want to appeal once more that we be assisted in the implementation of this, because this is an outcome of a cry, both by yourselves and the AGSA outcome, that as honorable members are articulating, we are paying the wrong people. So this process is trying to address exactly that you pay nokuzola sesisidolashe, whom you can see and touch, who you have proof that she is in fact deserves to get the grant as according to Sassa Act. Anything else would be administrative. What else does she receive? Then the Act comes in, because it defines who is supposed to receive the grant anyway. Chair, it has always been like that those who retire from government are different from those who have always been receiving grants as from Sassa, because there's always been that gap that administratively is being addressed. I don't want to get into that space, is more administrative, but I want to assure you and the committee to say we'll come back here to take you into confidence on what is our experience on the biometric system implementation. We'll give solutions where there are gaps, and we'll assure you that that is not going to, is going to be resolved anyway. As I already reflected on the issue of dispute, it's there in the agreement, but also parting ways is also part of the agreement. So if we can read that in its totality, we will find comfort on why of some of the decisions are being taken. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Acting CEO, do you have other, I'm sure you have other questions to answer now.
Thanks, Honourable Chair. So in terms of how will the Quad 7, so Quad 7's still banked with Postbank, so banks do also have what you call a light FICA, which enables them to be able to do FICA processes and pay beneficiaries who don't necessarily have their full banking arrangements. Postbank has been having challenges with this particular group, payments for this particular group over the recent months, but they, and sorry, this is to answer Honourable Muniai's question around which bank do they work with. It's Standard Bank, so they have also then put in place an arrangement with Standard Bank to use their, it's like a mobile money type of thing. So money will be deposited in the beneficiary's bank account, and then they will use a cardless solution that's linked to a cell phone to enable withdrawal of the money from the bank account. I think Minister answered the questions on biometrics, and we can provide a very detailed report on that. And going forward on the question of the modernization equipment not being everywhere, I think CFO did mention, that the savings that we're having from this contract will enable us to make sure that by the end of this financial year, every local office will have all of that, what we call it modernization, the tools for modernization. So that should all be in place. And then the question around someone being sent from pillar to post regarding their pension. So yes, when a person does have another pension, we would then have to assess what happened to that pension. That's actually in the regulations that says, because what we have found in the past is that, for example, someone would get a lump sum, and they would, so you get a lump sum and an annuity. So annuity being a monthly payment, but you also get a big cash amount. And there's a regulation that says that if someone has gotten this big cash amount they must show what they've done with, because often people would then take that cash amount, give it to their children, instead of using it to provide for themselves. I'm not, maybe Brenda would know the period of time that passed. It's just slipping my mind now, but there is a certain period of time that if you did get a lump sum, you're not then allowed to apply for Sassa grant. So when someone does have a pension with another provider, we would need all those documentation basically to show that, you know, this is how much your lump sum was, this is how much you're getting as an annuity. And it's normally picked up when we look at your bank statements, we'll see some money coming in. And then you'll have to ask further questions about where does this money come from, and the person will tell you, well, I'm getting a pension, and then you want to find out more details about. So the assessment is a little bit complicated when someone is getting sources of income. Thanks, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you so much for those responses to the questions, and thank you, honourable members, for the deliberations on this presentation that I believe has gone a long way to alleviate, in a huge way, in my case, any fears that one would have had in terms of what happens come September 30, is it 30 or 31st? 30. And the impact, because that is the most important thing, impact on beneficiaries. These are the people we are all of us meeting about here today and other days. The impact on the beneficiaries is assured not to be negative at the end of September when the termination of the MSA comes to effect. That, for me, is the big issue. That is, for me, is what I am taking out of this meeting. And of course, appreciating the clarity that we have been given on the issue and other issues that we have raised, and also the proposal by the honourable members of having of actually making sure that the meeting, the presentation that we didn't have this morning as arranged, as far back as the 21st of August, that it does happen with the South African Reserve Bank, and also that we initiate a meeting with the Post Bank, because members have questions that they would like to pose to the Post Bank in this regard. So I really want to express my gratitude to the Honourable Minister, the Honourable DM, the DG, the acting CEO, and the CEOs, and the team, all the senior management that is here with us today on the part of the department. We appreciate you coming through, because we walk away enlightened in many issues that equip us or empower us to respond to the beneficiaries or to the media or to the civil society organizations that contact us. We are better able to say, this is what is happening, this is what is not happening, and this is the process, and so on and so forth. So I would like to thank you so much for having come through today, and thank our honorable members for having come. As I said earlier, that we drag them out of the hard work, very hard work that they are doing in their constituencies, but they have come here, and I hope that the meeting has been worth all the sacrifices that you've made, and that it has also done, as it has done to me, equip you with information that we need. I would like to thank the support people, the support team here, our content advisor, our secretary, and our researcher, our logistics manager, whom I don't see here, Mr. Bulawa, and our stakeholders that are always keeping us on our toes, because they ask questions, because they, as happened yesterday, they marched on us yesterday. without all that happening, we might, put, what do you do to your guard? What do you do to your guard down? You let your guard down. Yes, we might let our guard down and just chill and not do the work that we were voted to come here and do. So thank you so much to our stakeholders that are with us, and we appreciate you all. I would like to take this opportunity to declare this meeting adjourned with this thing of saying that we are catered for lunch at 12:30 in the Marx Building restaurant. It is a sit-down lunch, but there is a rider, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but there is only 16 spaces for the department and Sassa in this lunch. So someone is going to have to do the mathematics and say, we're going to have lunch. Not. So I hand that over to the acting CEO, over to the DG on behalf of the Honorable Minister and the Honorable Deputy Minister. But other than that, I would like to